Hello, YouTubes. We've got a few minutes before we're going to hop on to Instagram, so I thought I'd just jump on a little bit early and tell you guys that I think the next time I do this, I will do the whole thing live on YouTube. See how that goes. And maybe cross-post. Actually, more likely, given the fact that Instagram is moving more towards a short form. Well, they're kind of in betweeny, but I think the next time, because I like the idea of doing this once a year, and hopefully it will be something that is eagerly anticipated. So as the next book comes out, we get to do this and kind of talk about the previous book. But we shall see. We shall see. Anyway, we're going to get things started on Instagram. So again, if you see me looking over here, I have Instagram right here. Y'all are right here. I'm going to try and keep it all the things, but we will see. And also my Instagram is talking to me. Shush, stop talking. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Live on both. You are now live. I always feel like I should have like a news reporter. 3, 2, 1. That sort of thing. Maybe someday when we're making the big bucks, I'll have a team and there'll be a person telling me, okay, you're live now. Maybe. I don't know. As per last week, I'm also recording this for YouTube. So if you see me occasionally look over here, it's because I'm talking to YouTube. And YouTube, if you occasionally see me look over here, it's because I'm talking to Instagram. But really, I'm just trying to talk to all of you about Change of Tide. Yes, this is still my proof copy. It is now available officially on Amazon. It looks beautiful. I'm still locked in horns a little bit with Ingram Spark. I looked at everything, it looked fine, and then they showed me the draft, and it's got like this weird line over here, and I'm like, that's literally nowhere. Where did you get that line from? So I have to go back in and mess around with things. But anyway, chapters 7 through 12, that's what we're talking about today. So, if you have not yet read A Change of Tide, number one, what are you even doing with your life? I mean, it's not like we have jobs and kids and bills to pay and dinner to figure out for the rest of our lives. I get it. But also, if you have not read it yet, there will be some spoilers. So if you don't want spoilers, I recommend watching this later. If you are like me and you actually don't mind spoilers, because it drops the anxiety level while you're reading, because you know what will happen. Even if you don't know the whole thing, you kind of know what's going to happen. It's one of the reasons I enjoy Hallmark movies, because I know what's going to happen. I know what's going to happen. I know the big city lawyer girl is going to come back to her dinky little town to save her mom's cookie shop, and she's going to meet the hot lumberjack man that's been working for her mom as her mom's been dealing with cancer, and they're going to fall in love and live happily ever after. I know. But how it happens, that's the magic. I'm a millennial, okay? I've never lived, I saw something today that said, we've only ever lived in unprecedented times. Was there ever such a thing as precedented times? And how do we sign up for that? As millennials, we've never lived in precedented times. So, we're starting off in chapter 7. Look how pretty she looks. I mean, come on. In chapter 7, we have, and I took some notes because I had some things I wanted to talk about. We have the kind of our first real insight into Emma being a medium. The books tend to focus a lot on, I say that as though I just happened to pick up this book and not like I wrote it, but the books tend to focus a lot on Emma's powers as a psychic. Her powers as a medium are used, but not always, which is interesting because her grandmother, Madame Ethel Ortega, is a medium, and that has been the main medium of magic that she's been teaching her that she's been her mentor for, and then kind of like trying to learn what she could about the psychic magic because she doesn't have any of that. And so having teaching it to Emma and kind of helping her guide through it is a little more not pressing, but like a little more uncharted waters, whereas being a medium, Madame F. Ortega is like, I got this, because that's what she does. So this is kind of one of the few scenes that we get where we actually see Emma talk to somebody from the beyond. Okay, and we get this very strange, dun, dun, dun. Do you see that? Do you see that? Tiny little, I tore my page. It's alright, it's fine. She has this moment, and we get to see kind of how the girls' magic interact with each other, where Emma's able to like grab Nikki's hand, and as soon as Nikki and Emma touch, then Nikki can see everything that Emma's seeing in terms of the woman that's talking to her. This was a scene that was in my head, and I had referenced it and then it became a scene kind of like Nellie's surf scene in the beginning, where for a long time it was a scene I kind of referenced, but I didn't actually put it in the book until much later. I was like, you know what, actually, let's just do that as a whole scene. So we did. And I was actually really pleased with the way that it turned out. It's supposed to be kind of a little spooky. It's supposed to be a little bit unnerving. Not scary. I don't do scary. I am not Stephen King. But it is kind of supposed to be a little unnerving because you realize the woman is not actually dead. She's in a coma. And so she's kind of flickering between that being alive, being dead zone. In this scene, at the end of it, we get one of my favorite lines. It was my favorite so much so that I turned it into a sticker. I still have a bunch, and eventually when I run out of these, I will make more, but they are buried under a bunch of things, so I'm not going to grab one out. But it is the line, all magic begins in books, and so that will be something that will eventually, it is a sticker right now. That one, and then my little otter one are always like the big, people are like, can I have one of those stickers? I'm like, yes ma'am, you can. So, one of the other things that I think is really fun about the series as a whole, but specifically this first book that I really had fun with, was textbooks. I know that sounds silly, but so we have Nikki grabbed the leather-bound book and opened it. A record of the prophecies made by the High Priestess II, Melivates, was written across the title page in spidery handwriting. There are several books that I reference, and we'll actually get to some more a little bit later in this book, but they're in every book. In every book, they are always like at a library or researching books, and I think that was one of my favorite parts about Harry Potter as well, was the amount of like other books. Like I have, these are the OGs. They don't make these anymore. The original like little flimsy paperback of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them and Quidditch Through the Ages. These ones are my favorite because this one belongs to Harry, and so like you'll see like they have like handwriting in them, and I always just thought these were so fun, and I loved like it's like a full book, like it's a full, like she's got a contents and a foreword and about the author and the introduction, right, and like a whole thing. And I always thought this was so fun, to the point where I debated, do I actually want to write up a copy of come on, get in there, get in. Oh, I shoved some other books back. It'll be fine. Do I actually want to write a copy of a record of the prophecies made by the High Priestess II and have like this little book of prophecies? There's also, in a later chapter, we have the Earth Children. We have, let's see, here it is right here. I think it's in the very next chapter. Or is it in the same chapter? It might be the same chapter. Nope, it's in the next chapter. Okay, so actually, let's just jump over to the next chapter. In the next chapter, we've got the Earth Children, the Elemental Magics, a Guide to Meditation, Creatures of Legend and Lore, The Journey Through Another Realm. Like, there's all these books that I, like, will name. And there's part of me that's like, it would be really fun to just sit down and, like, write out. Even if I didn't write, like, some of them I think would be fun to write a whole book about, like a whole, like, textbook. If you're wondering what level of nerd I am, I want to write a textbook for the fictional world in a book that I also created. A book within a book within a book. I mean, come on. It's also the kind of fan I am, though. Like, obviously. But even if I didn't write the full book, I think there's some of these that would be really fun to write, like, a full chapter. Maybe someday that will be something I do just for kicks and giggles. So in chapter 8, we have Nellie's kind of Hail Mary attempt, her last attempt to surf. Maybe this will work. And this is kind of when, like, the other shoe really hits the floor, and it's pretty obvious that she will never be able to surf competitively ever again. I think she by this point, she's already told her dad that, but she hasn't fully accepted it. Like, there's a little part of her that's like, no, maybe it will be okay. Maybe I can hide this. And I think it's interesting in terms of Nellie's character that it is not until after she's tested this out to see this, like, one last chance, is there one final way that maybe I can make this work, that then it is not until after that, and she has, like, a little bit of a mourning period for her surfing career, that she finally tells Wyatt. Which is interesting because she hates secrets. She doesn't like secrets. And so I think there's part of her that was willing to keep a secret if it meant she could keep surfing. And she's like, if I never tell anybody about this, maybe I can keep surfing if I find a way to hide it. Then I don't have to admit it's real, right? But when it becomes very obvious in chapter 8 that it is impossible for her to ever surf professionally ever again, that's when she kind of is like, okay, it's over, everything's over, and decides to kind of tell all to Wyatt, because if it's got to be completely over, then there's no point in having it as a secret, because she's not protecting anything, right? Like, there's no reason to hide it from him, because as of right now, it's kind of standing in the way of their friendship, because they've never held anything back from each other, and then all of a sudden she's acting super shady, and he's like, girl, what's up? Why are you acting like this? The other girls meditate, and they have a vision, which is super cool. Nikki gets exposed to meditation and is like, oh, actually, this is very useful. So chapter 9 is the shortest chapter. Okay, ready? There's the beginning, there's the end. Shortest chapter. I like a little variety, okay? One of my favorite parts in this is this moment, and I'm just going to read it to you because it's that much my favorite. Before she could stop herself, Nellie found herself saying, "Can I tell you something?" This one question triggered a series of 3 actions. First, Nikki began bouncing her leg, her nervous energy flooding the table. Second, Emma responded, "Of course." She felt Nikki's nervousness and wished, not for the last time, that her powers included telepathy. You see, Emma understood that Nellie was like a wounded animal. She had to be approached with patience and caution. If either of them spooked her, there was a good chance they'd lose her. But Nikki hadn't spent much time around wounded animals, which brings us back to the fact that telepathy is not in the wheelhouse of psychic mediums. And if only these 2 actions had been taken, everything might have been all right. But then the third and really unfortunate thing happened. Nikki spoke. If it helps, we know. Emma closed her eyes and braced for impact. Not right now. Okay. We have the whole conversation. Okay, Mom's got the things she's got to do on the internet. Could you guys just like stay upstairs and don't come down unless somebody's bleeding? And literally, as soon as I decide to read something, Mom, can I have a cookie? No, not right now. It's fine. Anyway, dude, I just answered this question. We will have a cookie later. I made butterscotch oatmeal cookies. They're super good. Anyway, so everybody keeps asking me for a cookie. So, chapter 10, we've got our first seance. The seance was really fun to write. I wanted to find a blend between making it feel mystical enough without actually, like, I don't want people to be trying to do seances, you know what I mean? Like, this is mumbo jumbo, y'all. Okay, if I've said no to the first two people that asked me for a cookie, what are the odds I'm going to say yes to the third person? No, you may not have a cookie. And Ginny, for the record, you may not have a cookie either. No cookies. In the wise words of my mother, ay, niño. I think my grandma also said that. My grandma's from Chile. I don't know if you knew that. Anyway, chapter 10, we've got the seance. Our first seance. This is something that I thought would be really fun, and you kind of get to, again, tap into Emma's medium side of her powers of being able to see the beyond and talk to people who have already passed. And there are little clues in terms of like you get kind of little nods as to what people's powers are like and different things based on kind of how the seance works. It was a fun thing to write. Don't try it at home. Don't be messing with that nonsense. It's just a story. It's just pretend. Don't do it for realsies. Okay. So meet Ashlyn O'Crane, which is Nikki's ancestor that Nellie is doing research on, right, for their school project. And then we have chapter 11, which is one of my favorite chapters because this is where Nellie tells Wyatt. It's kind of hard to get a read. So in the original book, like we're talking like draft 3. This is like draft 87. Because when you spend 14 years writing a book, you write a lot of drafts, okay? Originally, Wyatt was this really, really obnoxious dude. To the point where I was like, why is she even friends with him? Like, I know that sometimes we have friends that we're friends with and we're kind of like, why am I friends with you? Oh yeah, because we've been together since we were like in diapers. And so like, you're not really my friend, you're more like my sibling and I'm stuck with you. But that was one of the ideas of adding in the scene kind of in the very, very beginning, where again, this scene of him asking her to come to go night surfing was something that was mentioned in passing in a journal entry. And then I was like, well, what if I add it in? We can get this interaction with Andy, which again, we get in chapter 1. And we can get this interaction of like her actually being in detention. And then we can also see kind of an interaction with Wyatt of like what the good days look like, right? Like before it full on hits the fan and before their friendship kind of goes through this like really weird thing. What does their friendship, like what's normal actually look like? And they get along super well. They're like best buds. And so this is an opportunity to kind of, because we're seeing kind of this like he's not really sure why she's pulling away all of a sudden, and she doesn't know how to talk to him about this because nothing like this even crossed her mind as like something that she would ever have to prepare for. She's very much the person who thinks through all the situations, has a plan for every single situation, and this was not on her radar. Turning into a mermaid was not on her bingo card for 2008. It's 2009 by the end of the book. It was not on her bingo card. And she doesn't even like have any semblance of a plan. So she's full on fight or flight and tends to be a little bit of both, depending on who the person is. And so with Wyatt, because she's usually so vulnerable with him, I think it turns into full on flight mode until he tries to like dig a little deeper, and then she goes on to fight. And so this is a fun chapter because we finally get to see a little bit more of what their relationship actually looks like. She's very bossy. I know it's not kosher to use bossy when you're describing a girl these days, but she is. She's very much in charge of things, and very much like she rips off his clothes, which sounds like more than it is. They're going swimming. But she yanks off his shirt and shoves him into the water and is like, come on, let's go. I just love how much she knows him. First, I'm going to tell you. Then, when you don't believe me, I'm going to show you. Why wouldn't I? And Nellie held up a hand to him. This will be way less painful if you don't interrupt. She took off her sweatpants, wadded them up, and threw them back toward all her things. Here goes, she said under her breath. Are you insane? It's freezing, Wyatt said, gesturing to her abandoned pants. No interrupting, Nellie said, pointing a finger at him. On my birthday, I went surfing with Joe. I looked down, and my skin was a different color. And not just tanner than usual, she added, knowing he was probably going to make some snide remark. It was green. Not like I'm the Hulk green, but definitely not normal green. I came here a few days later to see if maybe it was a fluke. Maybe the sun was messing with my head. Maybe I drank too much salt water. She pulled her sweatshirt off and threw it. A shiver moved through her skin that had nothing to do with the cold. It was a fluke, all right. A fluke I didn't change completely the first time. I turned into a... Nellie shook her head and rolled her eyes. I turn into a mermaid when I get in the ocean now. She looked at Wyatt. Wyatt scoffed, speechless. Finally, when he found words, he said, wow. What a load of bull. If you're not even going to be serious, he started walking back up to the beach. Told you, Nellie murmured. First, I'm going to tell you. When you're not going to believe me, I'm going to show you. She walked up to him, yanked his hoodie off. He was so startled he didn't even fight her. She grabbed his hand, dragging him to the waterline, snatched up her extra bikini bottoms. Hold this, she said, shoving it into his free hand and pulling him around in front of her. Whoa, whoa, he said as she shoved him into the water. Keep in mind, this is California in December. That water is really cold. So just, you know, he has full reason to be really annoyed with her right now. That water's freezing. What the heck, dude? Oh, just kidding. Go, she said, giving him a final shove, which resulted in him falling face first into the water, and my children are... loud. She dived under the waves and came up just as he spluttered to the surface. What the heck, dude? Wyatt said, wiping his face with his hands. The water is freezing. What kind of sick game? Wyatt, Nellie shouted, look at me. You're wet, he said, glancing at her. Raindrops began pattering the surface of the water. Great, he mumbled sarcastically. Now it's raining too. So then he gets to see what she actually looks like as a mermaid, and she does a little... She leans back so he can see her full tail, and he's like, what in the world? And he's actually a really sweet guy. He's just a little... He's a Tin Hatter. Like, he's like, this is the government. You're a mutant. The government made sports drinks, and you sponsored those, and now you're a mutant. And she's like, that's not what happened. Anyway... So chapter 11 is really fun because that's where she finally tells Wyatt. That's where she finally has somebody that she can confide in completely, that she trusts. And like, I feel like this is a little bit where her healing journey of losing surfing begins, because she's like, okay, maybe I don't have to lose everything that's important to me. Working on book 2, and I was glancing at book 4 last night. It's really, really cool to watch Nellie's character growth in terms of where she started in her relationship with magic and her relationship with being a mermaid versus where she ends up. And I won't spoil that for you because that's like full spoilers. And you don't find out those spoilers in here. So I'm only spoiling what we're actually reading about. And then the last chapter we'll be talking about is chapter 12. Again, not a long one. Not a very long one. But Nikki and Emma go to talk to Nellie. Emma thinks it's a terrible idea. She actually says, I want it on record. I think this is a terrible idea. Nikki says, consider it recorded. And they go and they try and talk to her, and it does not go well. Emma's exact words, that couldn't have gone worse if we had planned it. Details later. So, next week we will be talking about chapters 13 through, I think, 18. I think it's 13 through 18 for next week. I actually dropped the ebook price to $4.99. That will be where it permanently lives, will be $4.99. So if you want to grab the ebook, you can. If you want the beautiful new cover, Amazon is going to be the place you want to hit up. And I think probably tomorrow or Friday, I will show you the cover for an obscured glass. I will show you a sneak peek of the back so you can kind of see. Did you see it? Did you see it? I turned it around and I didn't think about it. This is the back. There we go. But I'm really excited for book 2, which, P.S., if you made it this long, heads up, I will be posting a link in my stories later, and it will just say link, but if you click on it, it will take you to the pre-orders for an obscured glass, where you can also see what the cover looks like, because it is, in fact, available for pre-order right now. I also, if you decide to do that, shoot me a quick DM, and I will send you a Google form where you can fill out some information so I can send you a bookmark that will help you find the secret code that is inside an obscured glass. And if you have not already, there's also a secret code here, because I don't know how to do things halfway. And I'm like, if I'm going to do a book, I might as well put a secret code in there, because that was honestly one of my favorite things about the old Taylor Swift albums. You get it and you would buy the physical copy, and then you sit there, and she would have either sometimes it was all of the lyrics were in lowercase, except for she'd have some like random uppercase letters, and you stuck them all together. It made out a secret message. And then other times it was the other way around. It was all uppercase and then like occasional lowercase, and the lowercase were the ones that you put together and made a secret message. And either way, it was fun. Made me feel like a spy kid. And so I put that in my own book because I'm in charge and I can do that. So anyway, it was lovely to chat with you and listen to me yell at my kids about, no, you can't have a cookie at 9 o'clock in the morning, even though that's maybe what I ate for breakfast. Do as I say, not as I do. Anyway, I will see you next week. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Pay attention to that link for my stories. And like I said, if you decide to purchase an obscured glass, then shoot me a quick DM so I can send you the Google Doc. On the YouTubes, we'll get there in a minute. How do I end this? Every time. Nope, there it is. End now. Okay, for the YouTubes, check the comments, because I'm going to throw both links just down there. I'm going to throw one that says to pre-order an obscured glass, and then the following comment will be to my brain is like the stuffs. Como se dice? We're not even speaking English in my brain right now. Link to an obscured glass, Google form to get your free goodie, because I love a free goodie. And you're going to want it because it helps you unlock the secret code found in obscured glass. Thanks for being here. I appreciate you being here for as many minutes as this was.